Hi everyone, my name is Gabriel and this is the Hour of the Raven, your channel for everything Ravenloft, RPG, Dungeons and Dragons, and horror.
Today, we will explore the dark secrets of Lamordia, revealing the horrors produced by the reason and obsession of insane scientists. Before we begin, a few clarifications and comments. This video will focus on Lamordia from the classic Ravenloft setting, and will consider the events and characters that existed in the domain before the reboot carried out by Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. At the end of my video coverage of Lamordia from the classic Ravenloft setting, I will make some considerations and comparisons with the new version of Lamordia in the Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. Are you ready? After surviving yet another shipwreck, we swam across a frozen sea until we reached the frigid Isle of Agony. There, we explored underground caverns, where a strange creature lived in seclusion. To our horror, we discovered too late that we had invaded the lair of Aden, the creature of Mordenheim, and we tried to flee the place when our dark host arrived. Adam caught up with us on the frigid Isle of Agony, and was about to destroy us when our lupine curse reacted to our extermination, and we transformed into werebeasts to confront our enemy. Still, we were no match for Aden, and all that remained to us was to flee, using the speed of our animal form to our advantage. As always, we have no memory in this cursed werewolf form, but we awoke bloodied in an alley. Tasting blood in our mouths, we knew we had committed terrible acts, but we had no time to react when guards surround and capture us. Imprisoned, we are interrogated about the reasons for our brutal crimes, but the inspector seems skeptical of our claims that we suffer from a supernatural curse that transforms us into werewolves. Treated as dangerous lunatics, you are immediately thrown into cells and then taken to the Granheim Sanatorium. Without any chance of defense, we become guinea pigs for scientific studies, which aim to study our insanity or even test the veracity of the existence of some pathogen that transforms our behavior. Amidst doctors, scientists, and lunatics, we begin to hear and unravel the most disturbing secrets of these lands of reason and science.
Hour of the Raven.
In the land of the mists, the domains are reflections of their dark lords, like distorted, ancient, and stained mirrors, reflecting the grotesque image of their corruption. Influenced by the pragmatic, scientific, and amoral mindset of its first Dark Lord, Dr. Victor Mordenheim, Lamordia and its population partly reflect his values, adopting pragmatic, rational, and stoic behavior, and viewing with suspicion those who value frivolity or preach fanaticism. Skeptical of religion, many see men of faith as deceivers and manipulators. Magic is viewed with distrust and skepticism, as natural forces not yet fully understood by science, and the fools who manipulate it are seen as dangerous and reckless individuals. All this collective disbelief creates a strange effect on these lands. The skeptical atheism of the Lamordians began to alter the reality of these lands, contaminating it in an effect known as the smothering of reason. Any magical effect performed within the boundaries of Lamordia has a chance of inexplicably failing, as if the very disbelieving magic creates a barrier against the supernatural and the mystical. Some scholars imagine that this suppression of magic is becoming more potent and frequent, and that over the years, all of Lamordia, and perhaps even the world, may enter an age of reason, where all mysticism and occultism will be purged. This mentality and effect can also be seen in some secret organizations, such as the Syndicate of Enlightened Citizens. This gentleman's club is more than a social congregation of the elite. It is a gathering of a group that conspires against everything magical or supernatural. Its members embrace reason and duty, and preach the destruction of magic and the supernatural, which represents evil forces of destructions and chaos. In their crusade to protect humanity from these supernatural forces, they make no distinction, and even benign magic users might become targets, in the same way as creatures of darkness, such as undead horrors and werewolves. Even non-human races are seen as dangerous and may soon become targets of these paladins of reason. This group is known for sponsoring monster hunter groups, but in general, their actions are more insidious, and they infiltrate universities and centers of knowledge to discourage the study of magic and the occult, and sabotage the spread of religion. The group has only 30 members and is based in the city of Londerdorf, but has used its resources to try to expand its influence and establish itself in Port Alucine in Demolur and in Martyria Bay in Darkon. Reason and science have been Lamordia's stronghold, but it also spawned its own monsters and horrors. One of these horrors has now escaped the boundaries of Lamordia and is currently tormenting the domain of Demolur, where it has been establishing a terrible and dark hold over the mind of the population. This creature is a human brain floating in a saline solution in a glass cylinder connected to strange machinery. With a grey and overdeveloped frontal lobe, it possesses psionic powers, which it uses to create a network of domination. In the distant past, this creature was Rudolf von Albecker, the spoiled son of the ruling family of Lamordia. After suffering a naval accident, his wounded and dying body was found at the rocky foot of Schloss Mordenheim and taken into the care of the illustrious physician Dr. Victor Mordenheim. The scientist dismissed the body as impossible to save, but noticing that the brain was intact, he performed the surgical procedure to transplant it into a saline solution. Many experiments were performed on the brain, which, despite being alive, did not seem to respond to other stimuli. Over time, however, it developed psionic powers, and using its mental domination, it controlled one of Mordenheim's assistants to flee with it from the scientist's laboratories. Taking the complex machinery with him, the assistant took the living brain to Port Alucine, where the creature established its plans for domination with its mental powers and has now become the secret leader of a criminal network. The ruling von Albecker family has also been plagued by other sinister horrors when all of its surviving members were struck by an epidemic of madness caused by fleas. The fleas of madness are insects very similar to a normal flea, but their bite has the power to transmit a disease capable of causing terrible hallucinations and mental degeneration in their victims. During a harsh winter, isolated on their property, the von Albecker family suffered from the effects of this plague. The second son of Baron Wilhelm von Albecker, young Hendrik, went out with the family's lads to seek help, but he was also bitten by the insects, and in the midst of the madness, ended up perishing in the cold of the Lamordian winter. The fleas of madness have been studied by Lamordian scientists in search of a cure for this plague, and many believed that they were infected with a hallucinogenic disease in some kind of laboratory experiment. Others blamed the mages for their creation, In another example, and yet another example of the dangers of trusting in the use of magic by reckless individuals who are unaware of the extent of the forces they are dealing with. Perhaps the most prevalent horror in Lamordia is the existence of the dread flesh golems. Hideous creatures recreated from parts of corpses and reanimated through scientific experiments and the obsession of their creators. The first scientist of this kind to spread his horrors throughout Lamordia was the infamous Dr. Victor Mordenheim, who, defying all ethical and moral principles, sought a means to conquer death itself. His crimes began when he started robbing graves and corpses for his experiments, until he brought to life the infamous creature he called Adam. His monstrous creation brought great tragedy to its creator, but this did not stop Mordenheim from continuing to conduct new experiments and bring flesh golems to life. Invariably, these creations, cut from corpses, end up disappointing their creator, and many are destroyed, or else abandoned to their fate to wander Lamordia, spreading fear and destruction. His most successful creation, however, was Adam, the dreadful flesh golem, settled on the Isle of Agony and became almost a mythical figure for the Lamordians, synonymous with bad omen and death. Trying to unravel the secrets of life and death and create a race of similar monsters, Adam also tried to replicate experiments to create new flesh golems. Like his creator, he saw in these creatures only lesser creations, unworthy and inferior, abandoning them to their own fate, to torment Lamordia and its population. Perhaps the only scientist who may have come close to, or perhaps even surpassed, Victor Mordenheim in the creation of flesh golem is Emil Bollenbeck. A brilliant medical student, Emil met Dr. Rudolf van Richten in a university in Darkon and volunteered to help him hunt down a flesh golem that was tormenting the region. The hunt revealed that one of Emil's teachers was the creator of the flesh golem, which had the head of one of Emil's missing friends. It is speculated that this revelation caused irreversible damage to his sanity. In the final confrontation with the creature, in the laboratory, a terrible explosion occurred, and Emil disappeared, with Dr. van Richten believing he had perished. Emil, driven mad, survived and went to Lamordia to learn more about the process of creating golems. His insane goal was to eradicate all golems, and to this end he settled in ancient ruins when he began to carry out an ambitious project, the creation of a super golem, which would act as a hunter to destroy other constructs. In his madness, he created various abominations, such as animalistic beasts transfigured from various animals and other inferior flesh golems, until he was satisfied with his massive super golem. All that was missing was a brain worthy of his champion, so he kidnapped his former companion Dr. Rudolf van Richten, planning to transplant his brain into the creature. Van Richten was rescued from this kidnapping and saved by a group of adventurers, but Emil did not give up on his plan, having left Lamordia, and continued his experiments until he finally built the dread doppelganger golem, made from body parts of these mysterious shape-shifting creatures. As one might imagine, Lamordia has a large population of flesh golems, and many of these creatures become scourges for the population, spreading death and destruction. Some meet an end at the hands of hunters, or even the enraged population, but many quickly learn to live in the shadows or seek allies. The secret refuge of these hideous flesh golems has been the monastery of the Quickening Thunderbolt, This monastery was once dedicated to the deity Lotur, a god of lighting, and existed to protect or guard a powerful evil entity that inhabited the depths of the mountains. The flesh golems that inhabited this monastery disguised themselves as a reclusive order of monks, justifying their isolation and hiding their true appearance behind robes, hoods, and the monastery walls. This monastic order proclaims itself as the Seekers of the Spark, and they believe that the discovery of a sanctuary to a forgotten god of lightning in this abandoned monastery is no mere coincidence. They have developed a primitive religion around Lotur, believing that electricity is a divine force that carries the spark of life. Their distorted beliefs mix scientific concepts with diverse religious beliefs, and they adapt fragments of different religions into a patchwork belief, attempting to bring to life a creed that reflects their fragmented and monstrous nature. Their rituals take place during storms, and they have created primitive electric generators based on ancient flawed sketches of Mordenheim. They have a conflicted relationship with Adan and Mordenheim, who they see through a divine lens of creators, and they also attempt to accumulate scientific knowledge to replicate the act of creating life through the electric spark, conducting constant dissection studies on corpses and other bizarre experiments. Cathard, the most eloquent of the golems, acts as the voice for the Seekers of the Spark, and serves as the one responsible for maintaining relations with outsiders to the monastery. Their experiments in recreating life have failed miserably, and Adan sometimes manipulates them, saying that he will share his scientific knowledge about creation if they serve him in some sinister purpose. These fanatical flesh golems have chosen a home upon a terrible ancient evil, and perhaps their experiments may be contributing to the awakening of the sleeping beast. The location of the monastery of the Quickening Thunderbolt was chosen to guard a powerful demon, imprisoned beneath the mountains known as the Sleeping Beasts, named in its honor. In time immemorial, Baltoy, a powerful Medelith, was one of the Abbey's main generals in the blood war of the lower planes. By some infernal whim, she was punished and imprisoned in the Land of the Mists. Folklore, practically forgotten in present-day Lamordia, tells of the powerful sorceress Azzarine, who is said to have sealed the demon in the depths of the earth, where she dreams of the apocalypse, destruction and chaos that she will unleash when she is finally free. Little by little, Azzarine's magic weakens, and Baltoy is steered by the lightning and thunder drawn to the monastery above her prison. Her phylactery is a huge black diamond, and she possesses a massive aura of reality distortion. Baltoy is not the only supernatural beast to haunt Lamordia, although she is undoubtedly the most powerful. Although the population is skeptical and reluctant to believe in the creatures of the night, it is certain that hags, vampires, ghosts, and werebeasts also lurk in the shadows of these lands. In the frigid heights of the Sleeping Beast mountain range lies the origin of one of the most mysterious and profane tomes of the Land of the Mists. The tome known as the Revelations of the Prince of Twilight is bound in red letter with black metal inlays. Its author is a monk named Renton Voristok, although there are no records of his name in any monastery in the region. This figure claims to have received great powers and revelations after encountering a mysterious figure in the frigid heights of the Lamordia mountains. On the verge of death, he claims to have been saved by an entity called the Prince of Twilight, who brought him great revelations. This mysterious figure revealed to the monk that each individual have two souls, one mortal and one immortal, but that these souls were separated by supernatural forces. Only through the religious rituals and sacrifices described in the book could one summon that immortal soul from the void of the mists and become one again, receiving great supernatural powers. Many cults have already been started around this stone, and this book was considered heresy and banned by both the Church of Ezra and the Iron Church, and much speculation exists as to whether this Prince of Twilight was a vampire, a dark fae, a fiend, or even a simple hallucination. This terrible truth is that the rituals described in the book open the soul of the victim and send an invitation to the void to summon an infernal spirit to connect to the soul of the one who submits. The person will gain supernatural powers, but will gradually be possessed by this fiend spirit. A second ritual, pointed out as a deepening of this bond, requires a rare jewel and ends up imprisoning the victim's soul, leaving their body entirely at the disposal of the demon that occupies it. One of the most disturbing ghostly apparitions in Lamordia was penned and immortalized in Van Ritten's Guide to Ghosts, which describes the sinister thundering carriage. This apparition can be heard on stormy nights, when the sounds of its approaching wheels can be heard amidst the thunder. The enormous carriage is pulled by skeletal horses and an equally undead coachman. Inside, behind bars, some damned souls can be seen in despair, begging to be rescued. No one knows where this haunting comes from, or where it takes its prisoners, but its arrival is seen as a terrible omen. Another creature of the night that can be found wandering in Lamordia is the vampire child, Belize Marcusa. In the distant world of Cream, the child became an orphan on her 10th birthday after an attack by bandits and was left to die. As an act of charity, Merid was saved from death and transformed into an undead creature by the vampire Kesla. Trapped in a child's body, Merid came to despise her condition and to hate Kesla, whom she plotted to destroy, and then wandered in search of the bandits who attacked her, torturing them with great cruelty. Her actions attracted the attention of the mists, and she now roams Lamordia, using her wisdom of more than a century of existence and her peculiar and innocent appearance to make new victims. Merrily was once hunted by Dr. Rudolf van Richten, but managed to escape the hunter, and curiously maintains a close relationship with Adam, with whom she shares the torment of existence and contempt for their own physical form and appearance. The Isle of Agony, where Adam resides, also hides other horrors. A coven of hags has settled in one of its icy bays, where they conduct their profane rituals and cannibalistic practices. Countless children who disappeared from Lamordia becoming food of these monstrous creatures. Kedra is a sea hag, Kedra an Ennis hag, and Kentra a green hag, and together they are a force of opposition to Adam. Kedra has a history of enmity with Adam. Before her transformation into a hag, many decades ago, she posed as a beautiful young woman in a village in Lamordia. Overcome by her beauty and his impulses, and still inexperienced in his condition, Adam kidnapped Kedra and kept her captive. After a near-fatal battle, Kedra escaped, and today she is an opposition force to her former captor. Also on the Isle of Agony, another community can be found, composed of squalid and makeshift shacks, and and simply called Baytown. Its inhabitants, if confronted, claimed to be survivors of a shipwreck, and that they survived by fishing in these icy waters. However, a shrewd observer will soon know that there is something strange about this village. This unusual community in an inhospitable place is actually composed of a rare lycanthrope, known as the Sea Stalkers or Sea Wolves, a rare werebeast breed that is part wolf and part seal. These monsters have settled on the Isle of Agony with Adam's consent and act as his allies, reporting intruders and even bringing those they deem noteworthy to Adam. The Baytown is used as a base for their expeditions, where they transform into werewolf beasts to attack ships or coastal villages. Lamordia is also home to the most famous and long-lived werewolf hunter in the Land of the Mists. Ivan Dragonov resides in a lumberjack cabin near the city of Noftenburg. The Scourge of Werebeasts, Ivan is a ranger from Falkovnia who considers lycanthropes his natural enemy. From an early age, while still in Falkovnia, he witnesses the horror of lycanthropy and vowed to exterminate and hunt these monsters. Fate, however, decreed that in a battle against a feared Loup-Garou, he would become infected with lycanthropy. Unaware of his infection, Ivan was hired by Mordenheim to help rescue Hildra Kreutzer, a necromancer hired by Victor Mordenheim to transfer the soul of his comatose wife, and who had been kidnapped by Eden and taken to the Isle of Agony. They managed to rescue Hilda, but when Adan found them, in the heat of the battle against the creature, his lycanthropy finally surfaced, and both ended up failing into the frozen sea after the thin ice opened beneath their feet. Separated from Adan by the frozen waters, Ivan later discovered the degenerate nature of Victor Mordenheim and believes he still had score to settle with both Adan and his creator. Faced with a dilemma, he hesitated to seek a cure and thought he could control his curse, using it as a secret weapon to confront and hunt other werebeasts. His illusion of self-control was put to the test, however, and he became emotionally involved with Gabrielle Thor. His passion awakened the Lupine beast, but this may have saved his life, for the woman he had fallen in love with was a monstrosity, a red widow who transformed into a huge giant spider to devour him. This episode led Ivan to seek out his former master, a cleric, to attempt the cure ritual. The attempt to cure his lycanthropy failed, however, and Ivan, in his beast form, attacked his former mentor. Before dying by Ivan's claws, he cursed him that nothing except Ivan himself would be able to free him from his cursed condition. From that day on, Ivan stopped aging, and he traverses the centuries trying to control his curse. He knows his only way out is to kill himself, but he believes he can still control the beast and use his powers to hunt the forces of darkness. Perhaps one of Lamordia's most hidden secrets, and one capable of profoundly affecting its Dark Lords, is the fact that Eva, the little orphan adopted by Mordenheim, survived the tragedy that marked the split between Adan and Victor. Adan intended to flee with little Eva from the influence of their adoptive parents, but was attacked by Elise, Mordenheim's wife. In the ensuing chaos, Eva, frightened, fell from the parapet and plummeted into the sea, and Adan massacred Elise, leaving her on the verge of death, in a vegetative state. Eva survived the fall and was found by a peasant family who adopted her. Without any memory of the traumatic events she experienced in the Mordenheim mansion, she now uses the name Artisa Juvenov. Despite her mother pressuring her to marry and live a simple life, Artisa decided to dedicate herself to her studies and obtained a scholarship to a university and graduated in biology. At university, she met and married her future husband. Artisa has become increasingly obsessed with experiments in preservation, healing, and reanimation, and has heated arguments with her husband. A division has occurred in their marriage, as her husband believes that Artisa, an avowed atheist, is willing to go too far in her experiments, disregarding moral, ethical, and religious principles. Recently, the former butler who served them in the mansion passed away, and no other employee has been hired. The truth is that Artisa keeps his preserved body in her basement and laboratory, conducting scientific experiments on it. Is Mordenheim's adopted doctor destined to repeat his steps? In our prison at Greenhand Sanatorium, we are subject to the most bizarre and cruel experiments. You will be guinea pigs forever remembered by science, and you should be grateful, some say, while we are brutally assailed by excruciating pain. Others assure us that they will cure our minds of the illusion that we are lupine monsters, and even surgery to calm our brains is considered. As the next full moon approaches, we beg the doctors to put us in an isolated and secure cell, and at least they grant our request, even if only to observe our delusions more closely. When the transformation arrives, we are properly chained and imprisoned, and we surprise the skeptical doctors with our violent transformation. We have no memory of the night, but we wake up the next day, still trapped in our cell. The doctors are both euphoric and alarmed by their discovery. Many argue that we are dangerous and need to be exterminated, while some debate how valuable it would be to dissect us as specimens. Throughout this day, however, we receive a strange visit. A reserved doctor with a scar on his face observes us attentively. He seems to reach some kind of agreement with our captors, and on the same day we are transferred from the sanatorium and taken to Schloss Mordenheim. In the imposing mansion on the edge of a cliff by the sea, we are led to an office by a hunchback servant who frees us from our bonds and chains. The austere Dr. Mordenheim then enters the room and greets us. He notices our apprehension and tries to calm us down. Opening a bottle of cognac, he offers us a dose so that we can calm our nerves. Calm down. I don't intend to cause you any harm. You are of particular interest to me. For a long time, ever since I observed Ivan's conflict with Adam, I have been thinking about how the regenerative capabilities of a werewolf's body could be useful for my research and objectives. Finding living specimens is a unique opportunity. Perceiving our apprehension, he observes us coldly and says, "What I have to propose to you is a unique opportunity. I would like to count on your collaboration for my experiments, providing materials that can investigate and isolate the pathogen in your bodies and test the effects of regeneration. In exchange for your sacrifice and participation in the experiment, I will provide you with a cure for your affliction of lycanthropy, and I assure you that your bodies will no longer suffer from bestial transformations." Silence reigns in the office. From your expressions, I can tell that the encounter with Adam wasn't just a violent conflict. He must have told you his lies about our past. This poor creature of limited intellect is consumed by a violent desire for revenge that distorts his vision. Please, sit down and have a drink with me. We still have time before nightfall, and I would like to clear up any doubts you may have before we begin the next stage of our partnership. Join us, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Let's explore the secret and past of Dr. Victor Mordenheim.